Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Patricia Murphy with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Monday, August 11th. It is hot outside, and it might be hotter tomorrow. The National Weather Service issued a heat advisory. It's in place until tomorrow night. Highs could reach into the mid-90s in parts of western Washington, while on the east side of the Cascades, hot spots could hit 103 degrees. Dana Felton is with the National Weather Service in Seattle. He says relief is coming Wednesday, continuing through the end of the week.
And it looks like by Friday night we'll see a little rain. So we're going to have a kind of a quick transition here for summertime.
Call 211 if you need to find a cooling shelter near you. And if you're thinking about jumping into the water to cool down, don't forget to check online to see if bacteria or toxic algae is a concern at your local beach. Washington is suing the Trump administration for withholding funds meant to help the state address the impacts of climate change. State Attorney General Nick Brown's lawsuit claims the administration unlawfully terminated more than $9 million dedicated to communities that need the most. Maya Escovedo-Strom is with the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges.
The impacts are happening, and how are we preparing the future generations of leaders to adapt to what our new world is going to look like.
One of the programs is the Tribal Stewards Program, a collaboration between 6 colleges and 5 tribal governments located in areas most vulnerable to adverse effects of climate change. The program aims to train more than 2,000 students to become wildlife biologists, environmental scientists, and forest and conservation technicians. A recent Sound Transit document said the East Link light rail route across the I-90 floating bridge would open next April, but the agency's CEO, Dow Constantine, says he thinks they'll be able to do better than that and open it sooner.
We're mostly done with the construction on the bridge. Folks are very positive about the progress we're making, but we won't know until we get those lines lit up and get the trains out there running across the bridge what other adjustments we need to make before we can open.
The East Link route was supposed to open in 2023, but it's been delayed by a series of construction challenges. Once it's open, the 2 line that runs along several East Side communities will directly connect to the 1 line that runs through Seattle. Constantine spoke today on KUOW Soundside. Hear the entire interview at KUOW.org. Washington Congresswoman Emily Randall is pursuing new legislation that would reinstate Obama-era diversity and inclusion policies for national parks and other federal lands. It's in response to the Trump administration ending those initiatives with an executive order last month. Randall announced her proposal Friday while visiting the historic site in Bainbridge Island that marks the first forced removals of Japanese Americans during World War II.
What they're actually doing, this administration, is taking away funding and authority to make sure that our agencies, our government, our education system, our parks tell the full breadth of our stories and represent the full breadth of our communities.
The Obama memo from 2017 that Randall wants to codify promoted diversity in the workforce and called for making federal lands and cultural sites more accessible for minorities, low-income and disabled people, and tribal communities. A Seattle man says he was wrongly accused of murder and arson because of a, quote, racist misidentification this summer. A 72-year-old woman was killed when a fire engulfed her home in the Wallingford neighborhood in early June. About a month later, Seattle police said that with the help of security camera footage, they had found a suspect. A 25-year-old Amazon software engineer named Latian Shi. But Shi and his lawyers argued he was not the arsonist. And on Friday, King County prosecutors dropped their charges, and Shi was released. Seattle Times reporter Sarah Jean Green has been covering the twists of this story, and she spoke with KUOW's Paige Browning.
First off, this is a real tragedy. The victim, who's a Wallingford woman, Susan Lisette Klee, was in her own home where she lived alone. Firefighters then found her close to her back door early on June 4th during this fire. And despite their help, she died a couple days later. How did police initially identify she as the suspect?
So from what I understand of the police investigation, they canvassed for surveillance footage from the neighborhood. The footage wasn't great, so they couldn't make an identification, but they're like, okay, this is the person that we believe set this fire on this woman's front porch. And so they kind of worked their way back. So right before the fire at Ms. Klee's house, there was a fire. It was a rubbish fire at Sun Bear Park, which is a couple of blocks away from her house. And at that scene, they found a Dick's bag from Dick's Drive-In. Once they found that bag, they worked back. They went to Dick's, got a warrant to search their surveillance footage and the transaction history. And so they found a transaction from that night, right before midnight, where a MasterCard was used to buy 2 deluxe cheeseburgers. And the name on the card was Li Tian. So they did a search. The police couldn't find anybody with that name. And so they reversed it to Li Tian Chi. And that's what led them to this young man who was living in the university district.
And she and his lawyers always maintained that he was innocent and said the facts in this case just didn't add up. What did the lawyers say police got wrong?
At the time that this document was filed in court, they had not received anything from the state indicating a link between their client and the MasterCard. And police searched Xi's house. He lives with housemates, and they found a variety of debit and credit cards, but no MasterCard. And they also took a number of clothing items, but didn't find the jacket. The photograph of the guy at Dick's, he's in a blue jacket. And according to the attorneys, no jacket was found in the house. So we don't know who that card belonged to.
How have Xi's lawyers responded to the charges being dropped?
I don't know yet. I've been in touch with the Department of Public Defense. I'm expecting a fuller statement from them this afternoon, but I have not seen that yet. But, they've really outlined in the document that was filed last week that fingerprints on the Dick's bag, as well as this van, didn't match Xi's. There's the issue of the MasterCard and the reverse name. The police knew that they were looking for somebody with dark hair. And then, in the document, there's side-by-side photographs of Xi and the man seen at Dick's. And the defense attorneys outlined, they're like, this is not the same person. These are not the same people. And pointed out that Xi has a different hairline and a more prominent chin and a wider nose. According to the attorneys, those photographs were omitted from the probable cause statement, which was the basis for the charges. Those photos weren't part of that document when he was initially charged. And so the attorneys are claiming that that was hidden from the court and that it was a racist misidentification because they were looking for an Asian male, and here they found an Asian male with a reverse name to the name that was on the MasterCard.
Seattle Times reporter Sarah Jean Green, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paige.
Today, Seattle police announced they're asking for tips to help identify the suspect of the house fire. They say the man who was arrested is innocent. The real suspect remains at large and could pose a danger. And that's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst. The interview in today's episode was produced by John O'Brien. I'm Patricia Murphy. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you soon.